Hi all, if you're following my project, Investigative Selfinism, you might have noticed that I was gone for several months. I took a break. It was a break between the seasons of my podcast, and I am back. And I was thinking what to focus this fifth season of my podcast on, and not really the actual topics, but the overarching theme. And it became very clear very quickly. If you remember, the last season, or how I chose to call it, was let's get real, right? Let's get real about certain things. And I chose this theme just before the genocide in Gaza started, and that has inevitably affected everything that I did, everything that I'm doing since, me having an academic and a personal connection to Palestine, and just being a human being also. That's enough of a connection when you think about it. So the subjects became something very unexpected, something I really couldn't have predicted. But the overarching theme of let's get real, like let's get real about certain things, that remained. And this season I'm thinking how to take it further. Like what's after, getting real about certain things. And what came to mind was, it's time not only to get real about things, it's really time to smash. Just to freaking smash some things, and to really not only kind of deconstruct them, like, okay, I have the knowledge, that's cool, but like to take that one step further, which requires a lot of admitting to yourself some things that are uncool. That might be the definition of growth, who knows? And really deconstructing, kind of destroying, letting things go in terms of how you used to see the world, what was important, who you used to admire, your self-image, various things, right? So I wanted to have this intro episode, let's say, of the season already having an admission that I have talked about in my other podcast, Exploding Head, that's focused very much on politics, and now more recently mostly just on Palestine, but the concept of privilege. And it was I will tell you, it was so funny to see that, yes, I've been somewhere on that road of learning and understanding the pile of privilege that I stand on. And a couple of years ago, one of my episodes was on the concept of privilege, including my own privilege story. So from how, I used to think that I was so underprivileged by being from a small town, like a village in, post-Soviet, like a post-Soviet Lithuania. And like that was such an obstacle that I overcame with just my own merit. So I've been, that whiteness has nothing to do with where I am in the world. So I've been deconstructing it, and I've been on that path. So I'm very glad, because with my life experience, and like, look at me, I'm, changing countries quite often and continents, and having this very rich, interesting to me, meaningful experience, actually getting to see the world and getting to meet some amazing people. So me not learning from that would be really fucking strange, I have to say. But so the funny admission that I want to start my this season with, and my God, it's on my website. Actually, I haven't changed that language too much, so you can check it out if you want. But talking about smashing things, it's really for me inspecting that pile of privilege and seeing what else have I missed. And on my website, on one of the pages, like about me and like my journey, whatever, I had changed it at some point, but it's pretty bad, actually. It's still pretty bad. Depending on when you're watching this or listening to this, I might have changed it, but hey, I've addressed it. So on one of those pages, when I write, what I say? That all you need in life, you do need in life, but all you need, or one of the things that you need, is this investigative selfism, hey, right? The title of my project. And I attribute so much of what I got to do and see in the world to the fact that I was a curious child. I was a curious child. I had that curiosity. I was very, very nerdy, very studious. And that opened up so many doors for me because I was studious and nerdy. And I mean, there's like a grain of truth in that. There's like it's a factor in an equation, but the weight of that factor, like how much it matters, so embarrassingly small. It is so embarrassingly small. And now let's say I was talking to a friend actually very recently about how come like my English was so good. I'm like, oh yeah, I was in very good public school action. Then I got to study in the States, and that really I mean my English was good before, but that really changed it. And then we talked about, how come English is, taught slightly differently, and maybe in some countries, the tendency is that it's, you don't speak it too well if you're just in school, and like after you finish school, like how good your English is. And I'm like, yeah, the schools are pretty good in Lithuania. The classes are small. The teachers might not be native teachers, but their English is actually good. Education is free mostly. You can get pretty okay or good education for free. Anyway, it was just recently I had a conversation, and it relates to everything. What I want to say now is that how funny and how, in a way, embarrassing it is to say that when you look at my website, it's really, it uses this, white kind of colonial privileged language of like, all you need is a bit of curiosity, and you get to see and you get to do things. And I was just like, oh my God, that was me writing that just some years ago. And I stood by it and I believed in it for quite a long time. I understood that wasn't the full story already some years ago. I'm like, there's something else there. There's something else there. So that mission here is that, yes, that investigative selfism is very much needed. It's cool. Yes, it's fun to be curious. Like it's a cool thing to have, right? If you define yourself like that, if that's, like a quality that you like in yourself and you pursue where it, takes you, like that's really cool. That's very beautiful. And like I personally really like it in people. But for me, it's like, my curiosity, my nerdness, cool. What about me being from a family where I had two primary caretakers, right? Like I had both parents growing up. I still have them. That's a treasure. Family where, that couldn't be described as, where like major abuse was happening. We had food always. I'm from a country that was not, when I was growing up, and now, not torn by war. Education is free. Healthcare is free. My parents really still really value education and wanted me to go to like a better public school, and they managed to do that. And yes, I am white also when I'm outside of Lithuania. That when you're in a predominantly white country, maybe you don't think about it. Once you leave, like, oh, okay, there's that level, right? I don't have a mental or physical disability, and the list fucking goes on. The list just goes on. All those privileges. And I don't think I even need to compare myself to children growing up in regions where they have completely the opposite of everything that I mentioned here. They have complete opposite, right? The set of what I've just mentioned have complete opposite, and they have less. Can you imagine that? I couldn't for more than 20 years of my life. That was not a consideration I had. So that's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? It's kind of embarrassing. And at the same time, of course, if you are on a journey and if there's some kind of a documentation of your journey, like for example, for me, on my website and my podcast episodes, and if your voice is changing because you are changing, then of course, things that you record or write about, looking back, it makes sense that they wouldn't be what you would be writing or recording today. So I'm like, yes, that's great to see that progress. I cannot wait, in my 30s now. I cannot wait to look back onto my 30s and, when I'm older and see, what the errors will be of me doing, like, oh my God, how did I think that, like that's exciting. That's a very exciting idea for me. But so that's what I wanted to start with that admission, with that funny realization, and the fact that it's a little bit documented as well. But also a reminder and an encouragement that it's so fucking liberating. It's so liberating when you don't have, like, you don't have that loyalty. You don't owe that loyalty to your self-image or the, your previously held, beliefs or whatever. It's so liberating to be like, oh, actually, yeah, that was, yeah. No, actually, I was very wrong. I was very uninformed. I was very ignorant. And like, I'm here to learn. Let's do this. Let's do this. And as I've talked about in many of my episodes in the first seasons, like normalizing discomfort, normalizing uncertainty, discomfort, growth. Like, yeah, this is part of it. And it's funny. I'd say it's pretty fun. I'm like, oh my God, wow, okay, this is how I used to be, or I was, or I still am, right? In some ways, till now. But so if we choose to freaking smash things, leave some things behind, admit things to ourselves, just be more honest, even when it sucks. Well, these are the admissions then, right? And even if they're embarrassing, even if they're uncomfortable, even if they're kind of weird, they are very liberating, aren't they? Right? You don't have to go in some shitty fucking defense and just like, no. It's like, just let it go. Like, oh yeah, actually, yeah. Like, that's such a cool path. And when you, I know in my case, I am, in my travels and in my, just, living abroad, whatever that means, living abroad, like from where is home then? Anyways, but that experience, you talk to people and it's so nice because you can have a good, meaningful conversation. You don't have to protect your whiteness. You don't have to say that, actually, I understand that your country has these problems, but it was very tough for me. No, I can say, wow, yeah. Like the problems that let's say I'm in Colombia right now. One of the longest civil war in history. One of the longest, right? One of the countries with most just internally displaced people, just a lot of violence, a lot of political arrangements that are still causing that violence. The problems that Colombia is facing is not the same as what Lithuania has, for example. So I'm not gonna go in some shitty defense and try to say, oh, actually, you know what? Let's say, yes, every country has its problems. Every country has its structural problems, and those problems look differently in different countries. And that's okay to say. The scale might be different, but like, yes, of course, there's some, issues, of course. Some issues, yeah, like structural problems, from some shitty, legacies of history often, and not only that. So when I'm having a conversation and I don't have that defense of like, oh, actually, my country also is like, my country's had a painful past, but it's, it's very different, and I'm not gonna. What do I have to think of myself, and what do I have to prove to people to try to downplay that pile of privileges that I stand on? Like, why do I have to do that? Instead of actually having a conversation, I'm like, oh yeah, for me, I was very lucky. I had, good, I went to a good public school. Like that's a lot of luck, once again, in a country where there's no conflict. I was not displaced. I never had to leave my home. So embarrassing admissions, smashing some self-images and just various concepts, but also doing that and appreciating that, feeling that you don't have to defend any shitty concept. You were conditioned into defending those concepts, so you can drop it. You can fucking smash it. You don't need to carry it. And as seriously, I think as one of the coolest things, one of the coolest, not even side effects, but what you get from it is to have genuine conversations with people, where it's not your image, the you who wants to like protect and defend some things. You can like, oh, actually, yeah, for me it was different, and like I'm here to listen to what you have to say instead of defending those ideas, concepts, or once again twisting my image in a way that would match your experience, and then we can compare and compete. Comparing is maybe fine, like competing in that's just crazy, isn't it? So that will be the theme of the season, of not just the things that for me personally, which I hope that for many of you, seeing what's happening, I mean, not just that, but also when there is a genocide that's live streamed and supported by our governments, and when you see how the media is presenting it, and when that is not happening, there is a difference, I think. And just as some masks have fallen off from our country leaders and politicians, and then, just like the masks are off. And it's such an invitation to be just more honest, more unapologetic, more straightforward with then, how things are for us as well. And in times when it's, in times of crisis, crises, multiple crises happening at the same time, right? It's like, what are you saving your stronger language for? For what are you saving your speaking out? For what are you saving your, learnings and unlearnings? That was a question I am asking myself very often these days. And this season will be one of the expressions of what that means to me. And I do hope that resonates with you. Maybe not with all of you, and that's fine. But I still want to extend that invitation of just thinking and finding, when you find yourself in situations, it's like, something doesn't feel right, like the body's saying something, like, what is it? Like, are you defending something? Is there something that you need to deconstruct and drop? And what is that path forward in a way? So that is the invitation. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And these are tough times for many. And obviously any point of history is a tough time for some, I understand. And also feel that collectively it's been much tougher for many. Not just because of Palestine, obviously, so many troubled regions as well, but also because of Palestine. So I wanna use that. I wanna use that opening that I'm feeling myself to share some things, and that I hope will be beneficial to you as well. I hope that some things resonate and you feel that you are really not alone on that weird, uncomfortable path as well. So, thank you for listening. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.